Greetings and welcome once again to another episode of Sonic Odyssey, the music video channel dedicated to bringing you the last 5 decades or so of music in review and discussion format. Before we dive into today's music, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. Please be sure to like the video. That helps the YouTube algorithm get the video out to more viewers. You can click the little thumbs up button and that'll help immensely with getting the video out to more viewers. Also, please consider sharing the video with your friends through social media networks such as Facebook and Twitter. You can do that by clicking the share button. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel. And if you like, you can click the little bell icon that appears next to the subscribe button. And that way you'll be notified each time I post a new video. Lastly, I would humbly ask you to consider visiting my Patreon page. There you can see the different tiers that are available, and you can have your name listed in the end credits of each video, and even go so far as to select an album for me to review here on the channel. That's the housekeeping out of the way, nice and easy. Now on to today's topic. Today we're going to be discussing the band Naxatras from Greece. Naxatras play a psychedelic style of rock tinged with progressive elements, and it's music that's full of grooves and dreamy melodies, as well as huge riffs and out-of-this-world guitar playing, as well as fantastic musicianship from all the members of the band. They primarily draw their inspiration for this retro sound from the 1970s psychedelic scene, and on their early albums, they were really much more jam-oriented. They were a trio then for their first 3 albums and EP, and they primarily had few vocals. They primarily just focused on grooves, riffs, leads, jamming, creating otherworldly sort of soundscapes which work marvelously for the style of music. Their first album was simply titled Naxatras, and then they had Naxatras 2, Naxatras 3, and today we'll be looking at their February 25th, 2022 release, Naxatras 4. You'll forgive me for stumbling over that name. It is a little bit of a tongue twister of a band name. But we'll get to more of that in a little bit. They formed in 2012, and as I stated, they did primarily perform a style of music which was very jam-oriented, very psychedelic and trippy music with a lot of riffs and grooves and solos, and primarily focusing on the musicianship, not so much on the lyrical element of the music or the vocal element of the music. And so their first 3 albums had very little in the way of lyrical content. Now, on their 4th album, they have brought in a keyboardist synthesist to flesh out the sound of the band even further, and so the lineup of the band as it stands in 2022 is John Delias on guitar and vocals, John Vagenas on bass and vocals, Kostas Charazanis on drums and percussion, and finally the new keyboardist, Pantelis Kargas on keys and synths. Before adding the keys and synths into the mix, their albums really did have more of a jam-oriented sound to them, and now they've kind of matured their sound and fleshed out their sound in a new way with 2022's album 4. Even though they've changed up the line there by having the 4th member bringing in the keyboards and synthesizers, they still very much are a jam-oriented band, but there have been a few changes in the sound of the band, going from a trio to a quartet, and also in the length of the material they play. On their earlier albums, the songs tended to be a little bit more meandering and lingering and longer songs. And so there were fewer of them on albums that averaged over an hour in length. But here on 4, we have 10 songs, and the album is only 52 minutes long. So we have under 5-minute average for the songs. Many of the songs are in the 4 or under range. There's just, I think, 1 or 2 songs that go above the 5-minute mark. As to the band's name, Naxatras, John Vagenas has said, and I quote, "Naxatras comes from the word Naxatras that refers to the various phases of the moon in Hindu astrology. It sounded cool and fitting with our music, maybe because of the connections that Hinduism has to psychedelia and spirituality. But we spell it differently because it looks better with an X." End quote. So let's dive into the music directly and get a little bit of a taste for what they sound like, with a little bit taken from the song Radiant Stars. As heard in this snippet, there's a little bit of rhythm and blues and funk mixed in with the sound. It's got the psychedelic sound there, but it's also got a little bit of R&B and funk sound to it. It's very groove oriented, and the vocals that are delivered in the song are delivered almost in a whisper, very laid back in the sound and in the mix, and it comes through marvelously as painting this very otherworldly soundscape. The next snippet that we're going to listen to comes from the song The Battle of Crystal Fields, and we'll listen to a little bit of that right now. This particular snippet that I chose doesn't feature vocals, but it does have vocals that come in actually just a second or so after where I cut off the snippet I played for you from. And in here, in this snippet that I chose, you can hear the rhythm section doing a marvelous job, and in the background you can hear the titular battle going on, and then we get into a little bit more of guitar and synths before eventually, as I say, vocals come in after where I cut off that snippet. Naxatras is a band that doesn't have a political or social agenda. They're not oriented that way. Their song lyrics, however, as few as they are, as little appearing as they are in the music the band produces, deal more with the cosmic, fantastic, or otherworldly elements, dealing with spirituality and love and joy and happiness for those things that are around you and in those that surround you. Overall, 4 is a major step forward for Naxatras. It's an album that is even more accessible, even though the soundscapes still are very much in the realm of psychedelia, and it is drawing on sounds that are at one point otherworldly, but still come back to a very accessible and almost mainstream sort of sound. So this is definitely an album that is going to help the band break through to a larger audience. There have been comparisons by many critics of the band, and all the critics have praised this album. I don't think I saw one review that gave the album a score below 8. All of the album's reviews have been phenomenally well received and praised the band for their accomplishment on this latest release. drawing comparisons of their sound to bands such as Pink Floyd, Hawkwind, and Porcupine Tree, to name just a few. But even with those comparisons, Naxatras is definitely a band that's on their own path. They have their groove-oriented, riff-oriented style with their flares of solos and virtuosic playing throughout still present, even though the songs have been trimmed down and cut down in length from their more, as I said earlier, lingering and meandering sort of performances. The album itself is bookended nicely. It opens up with a little bit of birdsong as the opening track begins on the album. And then when we reach the end of the 10th track, we get a little bit of crashing of ocean waves on the shore. And these subtle touches, they're not long. It's not like they're intro tracks or, prelude tracks. They're just little soundscapes that come in and really make for a nice, peaceful and relaxing journey and listen. The peaceful yet adventuresome journey that the band takes you on is one of discovery and magic delight. It is filled with fantastically phenomenal performances by all, and they are all given their time to shine and show off their prowess with their instruments, while never coming off as overlaying or overwhelming or overpowering the sound of the rest of the band. It's just a band that really is playing live together, and they have a fantastic sense of where each other is going in the music that they've written and perform. So 4 by Naxatras easily gets 4.5 out of 5 stars here on Sonic Odyssey. This is a marvelously produced album. It is superbly written. All of the songs are marvelously done and performed. The musicianship is par excellence. There's beautiful music to be heard on this album, and it does have its ebbs and flows. It goes from sometimes a little bit more on the heavier side of rock and roll to the more gentle elements. There are acoustic pieces present in the music, and I highly recommend that you check it out. It's really a brilliant album, a marvelous release, and one that is surely to see this band grow their audience even further than it's already done. They've been an underground sensation for a number of years, but this album really should see them come out from the underground and get much more mainstream attention, and hopefully it does just that. It was released this year, February 25th of 2022, and I highly recommend you check it out. You can listen to the entire album for free on Bandcamp, and you can purchase it there. You can listen to it on or purchase it from iTunes and Spotify. Amazon, I'm sure, has it as well, and it's worth your time and attention. So with that being said, I thank you for your time and attention. I wish you peace, be well, and until next time, stay free. Bye-bye.